afternoon. Oh, hang on. Bear with. Oh, there's horrible things going on in my ear this morning. I've got loads of really loud voices and then screeching. Can you all hear me? Thumbs up if you can hear me, please. Excellent. Yay! It's one of those yay moments. Right. I would really like you, if you can, to get a pen and a piece of paper, please. And we'll, just wait a couple of minutes while everybody grabs one. It always makes me laugh when I ask crafters or somebody asks me to get a pen and paper because we've got all this stuff and then we have to go rummaging for a pen and, well, I do. I don't know about you guys, but I always have to rummage, which just makes me smile. Right, I'll give you a minute or two. So I've got a really nice class for you today, and I'm not going to show you how to decorate it all, but I'm going to show you how to build the actual structure, because when I was on air doing the USB, I spotted that there was a file called Setting the Scene, and it was like these landscape shapes. And I said on air that I was going to teach you how to put those into like a little box frame, a proper little book that's got hinges on the side. So that's what I'm going to teach, and it's come out really well. So I'll show you that in a minute. But I have a couple of codes for you. So I need you to write the codes down, and then I also need you to write the measurements down that I'm going to give you as we go through the class. You can watch the class back because you'll get it sent to you, but just in case, we'll put them in the chat as well. So the first code that I've got for you today, we've got two, which is super exciting, is PRIZE, so P-R-I-Z-E, 50, so number 5, number 0. And that will give you 50% off the first prize USB. Now, it's not an SVG USB, it's a background papers USB, but it's the image that I'm using in the class. If you've got other images and you don't want to buy it, that's absolutely fine. But if you do, we're cutting the price in half for you. This is live until midnight on Friday. And then the other code, and I'll do this again at the end, is BROTHER. So B-R-O-T-H-E-R, as in brother scan and cut, 15, so 15%, and you get 15% off everything, brother, including the machines, until Friday at midnight on the Highlight Crafts website, not Crane Crafts website, they'll have a dippy fit, but on our website, okay, both end midnight Friday. Right, so we've done that bit. I'll come back to it and do it again, and I'll get Andrew to put it in the chat for you as well, which is fabulous. But I wanted to show you what we're actually going to make. So we're going to make this, and it's a nice little kind of box. It can be an ornament, a decoration. I'm going to teach you how to make this side piece. But when you look into it, you will see that there are different levels of the same picture. So you start with a lower level, a mid-level, a higher level, and then the full back. And this is really cool because now you've got this file, you've got it on that USB forever. The other thing that's exciting for anybody that's got a CM300 or a CM600, on the USB, there is a little book kind of file which inspired me to do this, but it has a perforation line in. So we're not going to use that particular one, but you now have a perforation line, which makes life a whole lot easier. You don't now need to go into Canvas and create a straight line and then set it as a dashed line. You've got one now, which is brilliant. So we're going to start right at the beginning, and we're going to make the actual structure first. So I'm going to explain to you how we do that. And then I'm going to explain to you how we create those layers so that the image still lines up perfectly. Okay. So I'm going to give you some measurements, and I'm also going to show you on the screen. So the first thing that you need to do is to bring up the square or the rectangle. So I'm going to do it for you, and then I can give you the measurements. So the first thing we're going to do is go into the basic shapes on our scan and cut. Doesn't matter which model you've got, they've all got the same basic shapes. I'm going to go into here, and I'm just going to select the square because I can change the square into a rectangle. I'm going to separate the height and the width by using unlock aspect ratio. And I'm going to make it 178 millimeters high. Now, and if you work in inches, I find it doesn't really matter on something like a class like this because I'm giving you the millimeter sizes, and it's just as easy to put it on millimeters and press the plus and get it to 178. So I don't worry about giving you it in both. Just if you want to change from millimeters to inches, just go into this little spanner here, click millimeters instead of inches, and then press OK. And then we're going to make it 165 millimeters wide. Okay, so that's the rectangle that you will cut, and that will give you the back of the book. So if we can go back on overhead, this will give you this rectangle. Okay, so that's 178 high by 165 millimeters wide. Now, on the USB, there is a set of 3 perforation lines that they've used just to create like a hinge on the side of the book that they did. This is a different style, so I'm going to teach you how to make the panel that we need for the perforation lines for both sides. Okay. So I'm going to press home. I don't need to cut that rectangle because you've seen it cut before and you know how to use your Scan and Cut. And if you don't, we've got a free class every month, just so that you know, which is exciting. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to get the perforation line from inside the machine's memory. Those of you that got a CM300 and 600, you will access it from the USB. For those of you that have any other machine, you'll get it from here. So pattern and borders. I'm going to go right down to the bottom and then up slightly until we find the perforation line where the perforation lines are closest together. So there's this one, which is close together, and then there's that one, which is wider apart. Use the one that's closest together because we're going to stretch it to make it longer. So in stretching it, we make the perforation cuts longer. So if we start with a longer one to start with, it's going to end up enormous. So this is the one that I want you to use. So I'm going to click on that and I'm going to set it on the mat. So at the top of my screen now, there is a perforation line. I'm going to go to Edit and Object Edit, and I'm going to rotate it by 90 degrees so it's straight, okay? And then we're going to resize this. So I'm going to go to Resize, and I'm going to make the perforation line 172 millimeters. So you'll have a 3 millimeter space at the top and at the bottom. When you're using a perforation line, you don't want it to go right to the edge because then it will do exactly what it was meant to do and perforate, and you'll end up with it tearing. So we always keep the perforation line slightly shorter than the shape that we're putting it inside. Now, I worked out yesterday that we need 16 of these. So I'm going to show you this bit because this is important. So we're going to take that up to 172 to start with. And we're going to ask it to do, so press OK. Then we go into our duplicates or quantity button, this one here, and we ask it to do 16. And we press OK, and it puts them all on your mat like that. So we press OK again, and we get to the screen where we have our arrangement function. And this is going to put them all in a straight line for me. Also on this screen, you've got a little spanner. And behind this spanner is the pattern interval button. On a CM machine, when you go into your tools at the beginning on the home screen, there's a little spanner on there. Click on that and it will take you to the arrangement function in there, and it will also give you the pattern interval. So set your pattern interval before you start to 3. And that's the distance between the shapes, between the lines. So the lower the number, the closer the shapes are together. And the higher the number, the further away they are apart. So if you wanted to do a miniature version of this and you didn't want the hinges to be as wide, you can make that decision and you can change it, which is great, rather than having to put them in individually because you'd never get them even. That will be a pain in the neck. So pattern intervals on 3. So now when I ask it to put them in a straight line, which is the bottom option, it will now put them all where I want them to be like that, which is super cool. So that's done for us now. So all I want to do now is group those together, okay? So to do that, we go to Edit and we multiple select everything that's on the mat. We press OK, we go back to Object Edit and we group it together. And now I've got all my perforation lines there. But I need to put a rectangle around it so that it cuts out of the card. So to do that, we're going to press OK and we're going to add. So I would suggest that you keep this in the corner because when you try and add another shape, it's going to tell you that it won't fit. So I'm going to show you a way around that. So we're going to add, we're going to go back to the pattern, we're going to click on the square, and this time, instead of resizing it on this screen, I'm going to set it on the mat and then resize it, okay? Because if I resize it now, it'll tell me there isn't enough space. So I'm going to set that onto the mat, and it's put it here. So this one now is going to be 170 wide, so we're adding extra width so that our perforation lines sit inside the rectangle, but we're going to have it the same height as the back rectangle that we cut, that first one, which was 778 high, because we need the pieces at the side to be the same height as the back and the front. So we're going to edit, object edit, resize, separate the height and the width by using unlock aspect ratio, and we're going to make it 178 high. And we're going to have it at 170 wide. And it's wider because the perforation lines will all then sit inside it. So we're going to make it 170 wide. I was so chuffed yesterday when I did this because I thought, oh, my lovely crafters are going to love this. I was very excited. So we're now going to put the perforation lines in the middle of the rectangle. So we multiple select everything that's on the mat, and we press OK. We then go to our directional arrow buttons because we're going to move the shapes. And at the top, there is this function, which is called the alignment function. So I'm going to click on align, and we're going to align it centrally vertically and centrally horizontally. So wherever the straight line is where it will align. So centrally vertically, centrally horizontally. So now, if I just zoom in for you, you will be able to see that we've got a gap at the top and also at the bottom. That's so that the perforation lines don't hit the edge. And we've also got a nice distance on the left and the right. So we know that all our perforation lines are set within that bigger rectangle. So that will work perfectly. Then you cut that out. Now, a little tip. If you're working on an SDX and you still have, if you've had a CM machine before, and you still have this blade, your standard blade from your CM machine, use this to do your perforations because it's so much quicker, okay? It knocks a few minutes off because the SDX will be more precise. It'll go in, along, up, in, along, up. This just goes, so this is faster. So yesterday I cut the cut time down quite a lot. And if you're ever doing perforation lines, it's a really good tip. If you haven't got one of these, it might be worth you investing in the standard cut blade for the CM machine and the standard blade housing for the CM machine for two reasons. One, it's brilliant for doing your perforations and it speeds it up. But two, it's really good on vinyl. So then you wouldn't need to buy the scan and cut vinyl one. Just make it an auto blade, which if that's an issue for you, go for the vinyl blade. But I use this a lot. I still use it a lot because it's a finer blade. Not that there's anything wrong with the SDX blade, but it's just a tip that I've found and it speeds up the process a little bit. So once you've cut that, this will be quite difficult for you to see, I think. You will have a piece of card that has a gap and then a perforation line, and then it will have 16 perforation lines going right the way across and then another gap. And this is how you're going to fold the pieces. So this is why it's good to have a video tutorial that you'll be able to watch back time and time and time again, because this is the bit where you'll probably need to watch it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to fold the first perforation as a mounting fold. So we're folding that extra piece here back, okay? Then we're going to leave 2 perforation spaces, and on the second one, we're going to fold that as a, I'm going to say mounting fold. I might change my mind in a minute when I've done it. This is the thing, you see, because I haven't got pictures, I can't see it. I can't imagine what it looks like, which is really bizarre, isn't it? But it's the way my brain is, and I can't change it. So we've got one fold there, then a perforation line without a fold, then the next perforation line goes into a mountain, the one after that goes into a valley, and the one after that goes into a mountain. So perforation line 1 is a mountain, Perforation line 2 stays as it is, you don't fold it. Perforation line 3 is a mountain, 4 is a valley, and 5 is a mountain. And we want this piece to glue together like that. So where you've got the 3 perforation lines next to each other, we're going to glue there. And what that will do is create this piece on the inside that we can then attach our papers to. So bookbinding glue from Pinflair, because it has a low water content, it's a really good glue to use for this. And this is working on a craft card. Now, craft card is notoriously more porous than some other cards because of the way that it's made. It's quite fibrous when you tear it. This is the craft card from Anna Marie Designs. And it's the best quality craft card that I've ever found. I don't think we have it on our website at the moment, but you will get it on their website. And I'm just going to put a decent amount of glue, not too thick because you don't want it to take ages to dry. And then you're just going to pinch that together. So push it together, turn it over, and just press that glue into place. And you're just going to work backwards and forwards with your finger and thumb like this, or put it down on here and burnish it down, whichever you find easier. And then that will now glue and hold that piece together. Okay, so we've done that now. Then you're going to leave another perforation line without a fold. And then the one after that, you're going to do exactly the same thing. So we're going to do mountain. And this is the bit where it's a little bit tricky because you're fighting with the card a little bit, but it's not too tricky that it's not doable, because otherwise I won't be teaching it to you. So we're then going to fold this one over as a valley, and then the next one as a mountain. And then we're going to do exactly the same thing with that, and we're going to glue that together. Okay, so this is good. Right, so we're going to do this. Yes, so working from the left-hand side of the perforations that you've got, your first perforation is going to be a mountain fold. Your second perforation isn't going to be folded at all. Your third perforation is going to be a mountain. Your fourth is going to be a valley, and then your fifth is going to be a mountain. And then you're going to continue that right the way along. So you'll be able to watch this back as well, which will help. So again, I'm going to fold that in like this. And I'm going to go along there like that. So now I'm starting to build up the side of my little box. Okay, so the next one you miss. The one after that, we do exactly the same thing again. Mountain. And that's how good this glue is. Look how good this glue is, that it's already grabbed. This is why I would absolutely recommend you use Pinflair bookbinding glue. In fact, I'm going to stock up this weekend at Peterborough, which I'm very excited about. Oh, and I have a little thing to tell you as well, which is a bit exciting. And I tell them, Andrew, about the thing that's coming that Stephanie talked about this morning? Or will I get in trouble? The thing that leads up to Christmas. Do we know when we're launching it? Okay, so sometime next week, it doesn't matter to me if I get in trouble or not. Sometime next week, we are launching the first ever Two Red Robins advent calendar. And I'm super excited. How fabulous is that? I can't wait. So we will let you know, keep an eye on the Highlight Crafts social pages, and we will let you know when that is. It's a fabulous price, and as you can imagine, it will be a fabulous product because it's Two Red Robins. So that's coming sometime next week, which is super exciting. Our first ever advent calendar. So excited about that. I'm going to buy one for my little granddaughter Alice because she's super, super crafty at the moment. Every night she's going upstairs and watching Create and Craft after a tea, which I think is hilarious. And then she's quoting the demonstrators at me when she's in my craft room. So I gave her some paint the other day and she went, "Oh, I don't like that paint. Where's the other paint that goes on in one coat?" I was like, "What are you talking about? You're 7. It's funny. Right, so we've now got that again. So the next one we miss, then we do a mountain, and then we leave it, okay? Because then we've got a double piece here that can go and act as either be attached to the back or the front. It doesn't really matter which. I would probably attach it to the front just because it will give me a little bit of extra strength to the frame that's going to go on the front. So you then glue between the mountains and the valleys to put it together. All right, so we've got that. That's the bit that we've done. So let me glue this in place for you now. You do 2 of these, one for the left, one for the right. Exactly the same, okay? So we're going to pop this one onto the back of here, and I've done it so that the underside of the craft is facing in and the nice side of the craft is facing out. But whatever you're doing it in, it doesn't have to be craft card at all. It can be whatever card you've got. I would work probably on anything over 250 because you want it to be strong, okay? So I'm going to take my glue now, and that single, when we first started, we just made a mounting fold on our first perforation line. That's created the tab that's going to stick the sides to the back. So I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to put glue on there like so. Okay. So right the way down there, I've got the nozzle of the glue on the card, and I am literally scratching that glue onto that card. Now, I would have the nice piece of craft on the outside so the back looks nice, because we're going to cover the inside with one of our images anyway. So think about it when if you're using something that like craft that has a nicer side, and I can't say with Anna Marie it's a not so nice card because it actually is lovely on both sides, but it's the lighter colour. And I'm just going to position that, making sure that it's lined up perfectly, because we're creating almost like an open box, if you like. So we want to make sure that it's all lined up nicely, and we're going to press that in place. Now on this one, you're going to have to turn it over so that your thinner tab here, your single piece, goes on the other side. Okay, so we're going to do exactly that again, and we're building up our own book. Now, the great thing about doing this on a scan and cut is you can have this any size, any depth, whatever you want it to be. It's entirely up to you, and I think this is a great way of making a gift, you know, because the artwork from Two Red Robins is so beautiful that it would make a lovely gift. You know, and it doesn't have to be with Two Red Robins. This could be a wedding card, and you could have, like, you know, a picture of a venue and all going back into the tunnel. It could be a photograph that you've got that you photocopy several times. It can be whatever you want it to be. But the fact that we can make our own is super exciting, and we can resize it, which I love. Right, so we've now got our back on our 2 side pieces like that. Okay, so we've got that now in place. So for the front, I used the same size of rectangle, so 178 by 165. And then we want 25 millimeters here and 25 millimeters here. So we take 50 off the 178. So the inside shape becomes 138. And we take 50 off the 165. 128, sorry, my bad. I haven't had breakfast yet, let alone my lunch. So 128 high and 115 wide. Okay, so let me do that for you. So let me press home and show you how we do that, just in case, because I never know what level people are at. You might have bought this as a brand new scan and cut user. So we'll go back to our original of 178, because that's going to still be our outside rectangle. And 165 wide. So this is the same size as the back. The front needs to be the same as the back. Okay, we're going to set that on the mat. Now what we can do is edit and duplicate it. So object edit, ask it to do 2. Now I'm going to resize that one to 128 high. And then 115, like that. So what we're creating now is a frame that is 1 inch all the way around the outside edge. So now we're going to put that one inside there. So we do the same thing again. We multiple select everything that's on the mat. We press OK. we're going to move it. So we go to our directional arrows and we go to our alignment function and we align it centrally vertically and centrally horizontally. And then we press OK and we cut that out of our craft card, and that's going to be the front, okay? Then I want you to save that file. Do I want you to save it? No, I don't need you to save it. That's not true. I'm telling you fibs. But then that is going to glue onto the front. Now it's up to you whether you put your panels in first and then glue the front on, or you glue the front on first and then put your panels in. I'll show you the way that I did it yesterday so you can then make your decision. So we've now got basically our book done, and the sides look super smooth, look, because you've got the perforations on there, but it looks really strong and really sturdy. And you've only got the folds where we talked about. So the perforations in between each panel, you've got one that isn't folded, and that's what it looks like. Okay, so that's that bit. So the next bit that we need to do is the exciting bit. Well, that's exciting, but this is really cool. So we're going to work with that same 178mm rectangle, first of all. So because I've got this on here now, I can just get rid of that one. And we've now got our 178 by 165. So this is going to fit perfectly. Show you where, here. So as you look into the tunnel, you see the full scene at the back. So that's the bit that we're going to do first. And I'm going to cut all these for you so that you can see. So I'm going to position this, and I'm making sure that when I've printed it off, I've just printed it off, every one of them the same. So I've got 6. And I've done it on a 250 pure print, and I've done it on 250 because even though it's going inside, you still want that weight to hold those sides in place, because this is what's going to stop the sides from curving out and buckling. So I'm going to put it in the top left-hand corner of my mat. And it's important that you always put it in the same place when you're doing this, because if you don't, your scene won't line up. So I'm going to press this down. And the reason I personally chose this paper was I loved the yellow flowers. And when I decided what I was going to do, I wanted to use the first prize. So because I love the sunflowers and I love the catmint, mint and Della, and it's created this whole scene that you look into. It's super lovely. You could do this with Christmas. You know, it could be whatever you would. In fact, the Christmas would look lovely. So you use the setting the scene from this USB, but with the Christmas Eve USB. Can you imagine all that village? Or, oh, that would look just lovely. I might need to go and do that. So we're going to scan this in, and you're going to choose which part of the picture you want, okay? So I'm going to load this into my machine. And this is the joy of having a scanner in a cutting machine, because otherwise I don't know how you would do this. You'd be guessing, and that's not good. So I'm going to press OK, and I'm going to scan from this screen. So we're going to scan it in. We're going to press start. The scene that I'm using is on the first prize USB. So it's a separate USB to an SVG one. It's got backgrounds on it and lots of beautiful papers. I mean, its pattern papers on there are stunning, and it uses all the imagery from the Reflections artwork. Sam does an amazing job. He's brilliant at designing rice papers, and they have that look to them, although you can print them off on card, obviously. And you will find that on the website, and it's 50% off. So if you use code PRIZE, P-R-I-Z-E, all capitals, 50, you'll get 50% off, because I asked them if we could do that for this class, and it's active until Friday at midnight. So I'm just going to make this darker so that it's clearer for you to see. I've now got my square, and I've also, or my rectangle rather, and I've also got my background. So I'm going to put that about there, because I've got some sky in the background. I've got a faded out mountain range there. I've got some hills here, and then I've got all this beautiful foliage in here. Now, once you set that rectangle, you can't move it, okay? You need to keep it where it is. That's really, really important, because as soon as you move that, it won't all line up. So we're going to press OK. I'm going to press please select and cut. And I'm going to ask it to start and cut that piece out. And we're going to build this up in the layers. I was so happy when I saw those edges because it just makes doing things like this really exciting. And because we've got a scan and cut, there will be a height to these because they're a line that's got a shape to it, but you can stretch it because you've got that unlock aspect ratio. You can make it as wide as the book that you're making, which is super cool. So you're in charge of what you're doing. So we can unload the mat and that will leave the rectangle in place. So when I press OK, you can see that that rectangle is still in the same place. That is really important that you leave it there. So I've got my first piece, which is going to be the back, and that is going to glue inside of my book here. So I'm going to do that now so it's drying while we do the next part. And the next part is super cool. So I'm going to bring this down. Now I've only done 4 layers. So the back is 1 layer, then 3 that go onto the little hinges here because that's how I've created it. You could have, if you wanted more to make it deeper, you would just add more perforation lines in when you're designing that file. So I'm now going to pop that in there, which fits absolutely perfectly, which is great. And that can be drying while we do the next one. So to do the next one, we're going to need to add those files in that we're going to use to create that shape. So we go back and we add, and this time we're going to retrieve it from the USB. So retrieve data from the USB, and it's in allotment gossip. And as I scroll down, it's called setting the scene. Okay. So setting the scene folder, we open up. There's only 1 cut because there's no reflection for it because it's a line. So we're going to go into detailed cuts, original cut, because it's the original size, because you can resize these. And you've got these 5 different edges. You could use these down the edge of a card if you wanted to. You know, it's giving you those lines, and it's something else that we can't necessarily do ourselves without drawing it out. But it's those little things on these USB that make it so much more versatile. So I'm going to press OK. And I found the easiest way to do it was to drag them down to the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to use the top one. Actually, I'm going to use the second. Oh, I moved that. Right, if you move it, you go back, you go into edit, and you undo it. Okay, so be careful when you're moving them down. If you find it easier, and I must admit this is what I will do going forward, is grab that one, use your directional arrow buttons and use it to move it down, okay? But you have got an undo button up to 10 spaces, which is good. If I'd moved it with the arrows and then thought, oh no, I've done it wrong, it will only undo up to 10 spaces. But it's really important that we keep that rectangle there. So now I'm going to move that one down. And I'm going to use the top one first of all. I'm going to move those down, and then I'm going to bring this one in. Now we know that this is 165 millimeters wide. So we're going to press OK. We're going to go to Object Edit. We're going to click on the size. We're going to separate the height and the width, and I'm going to make this 170, okay? Just so that I know that it's going to go right over the edge. And then I'm going to press OK. And keep going. And I'm going to move this down. So I need to scan my picture back in again so that I can see where I'm positioning it. Because I've unloaded the mat, the picture comes off the screen. It will stay on the screen until you unload the mat, but we just want to scan it back in. So we're not moving anything now, we're just scanning this back in. I've got it in the same position in that top left corner. And I'm loading this back in now, and we're going to scan it. I had such a nice day yesterday planning this class. It was lovely. Right, so we're going to scan in again and press start, and then it will bring the picture up, and then I can see where I want that first edge to line up to. I'm going to see if we can do more of these edges for scene setting because I think it's really cool. or even just for edges of cards. That would be a nice one to do as well. So keep an eye out because I'm going to make that happen. Right, so now you can see I've got this line up here. I'm going to move it down and I want it to go kind of just above the mountain ranges a little bit, just about there. And I'm making sure that I've got a little bit of the line over here and a little bit of the line over there. And then if I want to edit it, I can go in and I can just nudge that across a little bit. So that's my first line. So to stop it cutting all these other lines at the bottom that we've moved down, we're going to do this. So we're going to go into the spanner and the cut area, and we're going to drag the arrow over the bottom of that mat, okay? And then when I press OK, and I ask it now to cut, so I go to my cut, please select and cut, it will tell me that there is a pattern out of the effective area, which there is, but it says, the pattern cannot be cut or drawn. Are you okay to continue? And you say yes. So instead of having to take them all off and then put them all back on, just drag that arrow up over those shapes that you don't want to cut or draw, and this works for all files, then it will just cut what it can see, which is brilliant because it saves us loads of time. So I'm going to press OK, and now it's going to start and it's going to cut that first layer for me. So that is brilliant. We can absolutely do it on a CM machine. Everything that we do in all the classes, you can do on every single machine that we've ever sold you, because I'm very aware that there are tens of thousands of you that have bought a CM machine and are still using it and very happy with it. And I'm one of them, because I still have my CM machine at home and I love it. So absolutely, we will make sure that that's always a thing. Right, so I can unload this now. Remember, I'm not moving anything else that's on the mat, any of the shapes, but I can take this one off. And all these little bits, you know, your sky bits and other things, you know, you can make a bookmark with that or use it in an art journal, something else to do with it. But we've now got this piece with that edge. So you can see how that's now got that fabulous edge there. Turn this over. You can see we've now got that texture on that edge. And then that's going to go into our book. So I'm going to put that into the book now. But this piece, I want you to keep, because this is a bit cool as well. So we're going to keep that for a minute. So the way that I did this was I put glue down the side of here rather than onto the hinge, because it's not going to go right to the top. So I'm going to put glue down here, like so. And again, I'm not putting much on. The more you put on, the harder it is to stick. So the less glue you use, the better. I'm going to bring this in so it's vertical, and I'm going to pop this to the bottom on the left-hand side, okay? And then when I've got it lined up, I'm just going to hold it in place while it just sticks, and I'm going to press it flat because I can, because it bends, because we've put the perforation lines in. And I am going to sat down firmly like that, okay? Oh, that was a bit of a squeak, sorry. It was like nails down a blackboard, wasn't it? Right, don't work on a sticky mat, Melanie, it's not good. And then on the other side, I'm going to put that onto here. Now, there's quite a lot of pressure going to be on here because it's going to want to pull apart. So you need to make sure that you put your glue on and then just keep hold of it until it grabs. And once it's grabbed, you're good to go. Okay, so I'm going to pull this across, lift this up, do exactly the same thing, align it to the bottom. Now this time you can't put it flat, so you just need to push it against my tummy. Now I've got a tummy. I'm not happy about this middle age spread or whatever they call it. Mind you, a lot of it's down to chocolate, I have to be fair. So I'm going to press that there, like so. And I'm going to make sure that I'm pressing it firmly, right into the middle, because you can get your hand behind, look, because you've got this open space. And this is another reason why I left. It's about, I would say, 3/4 of an inch, if not a little bit more, the distance between these little tabs here, these little hinges, because you can tuck things behind here and on top of there then and get really depth and dimension. So I've now got my first one in place. So now what we need to do is the second one. So let's take another sheet and we're going to pop this onto here like this and burnish this down like so. We are going to press OK and go back, and we're going to go to our spanner and we're going to put the cut area back to full so that I can see the shapes that are at the bottom. Now, rather than deleting this one off now, I'm going to move these and decide which one I want next. So I don't want that one yet, and I don't want that one yet because they've got lots of like tree shapes in them. So I want another one that is slightly sloped. So maybe not that one, but we'll have a look. Maybe this one. So I'll move that up there. And again, I'm going to edit, object edit, resize. Nope, that's not resize, Melanie. That's resize. Unlock the aspect ratio and make this 170 wide. And then we can just drag it across or move it with your directional arrows. But we're going to scan in again. So to make sure that we know where they are, I've left the original one in place so that you'll be able to see the distance and gauge it, because otherwise, if you delete that one, you're like, well, where was the previous one? So I've thought about it really methodically. And it is one of those, if you do it methodically in this order, it will work. There's no doubt about it, it will work. And for those of you laughing, going, I bet it doesn't work for me, it does. So I'm going to scan in first and press start. And we're going to bring that picture up on our screen again. And this is, again, why Miss Cynical here, why do I need a scanner in a cutting machine? Every day that question is answered. And it feels like it's going, no, 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 told you. It absolutely is. I wouldn't have a cutting machine without a scanner in now. So now you can see the top line is there that we've already done. And we can now, when we press edit, it will highlight that line that we've moved. So now I can go into my directional arrow buttons and I can move it up like so. And I might want this one. I can make the background a little bit lighter for you so that you can see. And now I've got this line here that is underneath the mountain on the left, but you'll have to gauge it depending on which background you're using. But I want to now get rid of the first one. So I press OK, and I'm going to use my select arrows to get to the one that I want to delete. And I'm going to pop that in the bin. So now I'm just working with my second one. These lines here, so I'm going to tap the screen up there. We're going to do the same thing that we did before with the cut area. We're going to drag over the bottom of that image. Be a bit further than that maybe. Press OK and OK, and then we're going to ask it to cut. So we press OK. Please select, cut. Tells me the same message again, but it's OK to continue. And then we just press start, and that's going to cut my next layer for me, which is super cool. This is how you're going to build that. Now, depending on how many pieces you have in your side, you can make this as deep or as shallow as you want to, as tall or as wide as you want to. Just write your measurements down. So when I'm doing something like this, rather than trying to remember it, because I have the memory of a sieve, I just draw it out, and literally it's a scribble. 178 high, 165 wide, 16 perforations at 172 with a pattern interval of 3. So I always remember what I've got, and it's just a little scribble to, just try and remember. Now, what you could do if you wanted to is bring all the files on one and resize it that way, because you've created them if you want to save the files as you go along. But it's whatever you feel more happy with. So OK and unload. And we're going to take this one off and this piece off. And then we've got our next piece. And you can see now how it's starting to put down those hills at the back. So now we're going to stick this one into the book. So again, turn it over, and I'm going to put glue on this edge, and I'm going in about 1 centimetre because that's probably a little bit less than a centimetre is the little tab that you've created. So just make sure that there's glue right the way where you need it to be. So what I'm trying to say is you want glue right on this tab so it goes right the way across it. And then I'm going to put the card there, making sure it's lined up at the bottom. Turn it round and press it into place, into position. And you do need to make sure that it's butted up against that perforation line, because if you don't, it will be too wide, and what will happen is it will bow. So you'll end up with a bow. And if that's what you want, if you wanted it to be all bowed, you could absolutely do that. You just make these panels wider than the actual back of the book. So you could get that bow. If that's something that you wanted, you could absolutely do that. And you could do it with the front as well. You would just have to have a tab that glued it onto the front. But you can absolutely do that. So you can make it like a bow-fronted window, shop window. I remember as a child, there was a toy shop next to a bakery. And we used to go up to the bakery to have hot chocolate and a piece of cake. And then the toy shop next to it had one of those leaded window bowed windows in the front of the shop and the toy shop, and every Christmas they had a mechanical train set that went round with all the presents on, and I'd stand in front of it for about half an hour just staring at all the things going on. I can remember that clear as day. It's funny, isn't it, how memories are evoked when you're crafting. I think that's maybe why we do it, why we love it so much, because it takes you back and you reminisce about those good old days before technology. We used to go out and play all day, nobody worried about us. It's fabulous. Right, so we're going to press that down. So we've now got our second layer, and it will feel like these are just going to keep opening out, but actually when you put it back straight and you glue it all together, it will go perfectly straight. Okay, so we've now got our second piece in there. So now we need to do our next piece. So we're going to do exactly the same process again. And I'm going to carry on doing this until we get the whole book, because it's important. It's repetitive, and I talk about this a lot. Scan and cut is really repetitive, and the more you repeat something, the more it becomes muscle memory or second nature. So it's a really good one to practice your scan and cut on this as well, because you're learning about pattern interval, you're learning about scanning in and positioning and all that kind of thing. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to go to my spanner and I'm going to make my cut area full again. I'm going to press OK. And then I'm going to choose my next line. So that one is a nice one, and I think I might use that. I've got another one that's a little bit smoother, which I don't think I need, because I want more of a tree line now. So at this point now I can put that in the bin because I don't need that one anymore. And I think I'm going to use this one, so I don't need this one, so I'm going to put that in the bin as well. And now we're going to scan in again. Well, first of all, I'm going to make it wider. So I'm going to go to Object, Edit, Resize, unlock the aspect ratio and make it 170 wide. I'm asking that as a question because I've already forgotten the number, but I think it is. So now I'm going to scan this back in. So card in exactly the same position again on your mat. Andrew's given me the wrong measurements in my ear and making me doubt myself. Teasing him now. Let's see. Just look down. Yeah. Andrew, see? So 170, so it goes over the edge. Sorry, I'm having a debate with my producer in my ear. Thinking he's clever. He's not. So we're now going to scan. Yes, there is a way to set them as draw lines. You put your pen in and you ask it to draw. If you're going to do it, you can go into Canvas Workspace, take it into Canvas, and in the properties, you can set it as a drawing only line. So when you download it, it will cut the cutting only lines and it will draw the drawing only lines. But if you want to draw it, you can literally just put your pen in and it will draw. It can't cut with the pen in and it can't draw with a blade in. So that's the easiest way to do it. The other thing you can do, is make stencils with them. So if you've got some Mylar or acetate or whatever you use for your stencils and cut those edges, you can then ink against them. So you can then create your undulating backgrounds with your hills. So it's that file is absolutely fabulous. And it wasn't on the boards because it's a line, so it couldn't go on the boards when we were going through them. And it was only when I was just having a play around in the studio, and I thought, oh, what's that? And it came, and I was like, oh my goodness, that's amazing, which is just fabulous. So I'm now going to move this one. Now this one I want to come just underneath there a little bit, and we're going to set a tree line like that. So now I'm happy with that. Let me just check where I did it on this one. Yep, that works for me. So I'm going to move it up a little bit. So edit and move it up slightly. So I'm going to move it further up. And every one that you do can be slightly different if you want it to be. That's the joy of it. Now, because I've moved that up, I can't get to the one that we've just cut unless I use my select arrows. So we use our select arrows. That's your rectangle. That's your original one. I'm going to pop that in the bin and press OK. And now we're going to cut that one. Okay. And after this, you're still going to leave that rectangle where it is. That's super important. So press OK, please select and cut. And then the machine does all the boring bit. And you could save each one of these. And there are so many lovely backgrounds and scenes on that USB. There's all sorts. I think there's topper sheets on there. There's background papers. I think there's coordinating card colours. There's all sorts of different things on that USB that you're getting 50% off. So it might be worth you having a look at that. Or not, if you've got loads of USBs already. It's up to you. But now it's doing its thing. I love watching it cut. You know, nearly 8 years on, it still has that little bit of joy when I sit there and look at it and go, look at that. How clever is that? Especially when you scan it in. It's just, yeah, I still get that happy feeling when I'm working with my scan and cut. It's just so clever. And I still get really giddy when I can hear the producer when I'm on air saying, oh, we've got another 5 people just joined the Scan and Cut family. And I'm like, yes, because I want you to feel as confident in it as I am. And it's, yeah, that's why we're doing the free classes as well. Right, so we've now got our third piece here. So we've got this. So you can see we've got our trees now in the background. But what was really clever, there was no intention of me doing this. This was just one of those happy accidents, is this bit here. So we've now got an icy scene. So if you turn these upside down, look, you've got the icy snow here, and the sun's just hitting it here and making it glow a little bit. Then you go up into the icy mountains, and then you would put another scene behind there. So it might be that you printed it out. Let's see if it works like this. So forget this bit down here. Look, you could then put that there, and that sky bit now becomes your ground. So you're not wasting these bits either, which I think is really cool. And then you could move it around and have different parts of the sky, because you're going to cut this away anyway. So you might as well make the most of this and then use that up there. And that was just completely, as I was cutting it, I thought, oh, I wonder what it'll look like the other way around. But what that also tells you is that not only have you got your patterned lines, you can flip them, which will reverse that pattern. But then you can also have them, so if you're going to canvas, you don't need to go into canvas, you can rotate them 180 degrees. So you've got the original, the reversed one, the rotated one, which will give you this, and then you've got the flip of that as well. So you've got 4 different ways of using those 5 shapes. You can't do that with a die. You can do the upside down bit, but you can't do the flip one. So this is me now thinking on my feet. That hadn't even crossed my mind until I just looked at that then and thought, it's upside down. You can use them all each way around. That's the great thing about, you know, having a machine like this. And I know I bang on about it, but I just love it. It's fabulous. Right, so I'm going to bring this one in now, and we're going to start to put our third layer in here. So this one. So glue again. Always remember to put your lid back on your glue. Do as I say, not as I do, because you will get a slight skin. The nozzle is so fine on this glue that the air can't get right in unless you leave the lid off for a long time, which I am really bad at doing. A pin is better than a poker tool. And you might find that even, you know, using it, you might have used it and then half an hour later use it again. It can form a little skin over the top, but that's a good thing because it stops the air getting in. So you don't need to just automatically put your poker tool in. You want to keep that nozzle as fine as possible, then the air doesn't get into it, but it's a super glue. Yes, I printed the scene A4, absolutely. So I just printed it. It doesn't matter as long as you print them all the same. So it doesn't matter if you do it fit to page or you do it 100%. It doesn't matter with this as long as all the layers are exactly the same. So your picture lines up, because that's the important thing. And then I'm going to bring this one in here, and you can see now how it's all starting to come together, which is super exciting. I'm going to go and make one of these for Christmas, and I'm going to do a big one. So I might go to the print, well, I don't need to go to the print shop because we've got an A3 printer at work, but you could go to a print shop and get 6 done in A3, and it might cost you a few pounds, but can you imagine a big Christmas one of these with loads of layers with tea lights in it? That would look fabulous. I'm going to have to do that now. Because we can resize all the reflections as well, that's super exciting. Oh, I've got to do that now. And I haven't got time to do it this week. So just to give you a little bit of an idea what we're up to at Highlight Crafts while I'm waiting for this to glue. This weekend, we're all in Peterborough. Oh, so first of all, David is on tonight with a rice paper USB as a one-day special. So that's 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. Then tomorrow we're all going down to Peterborough to set up the Crafting Live show. We've got that for 2 days. Then next Wednesday, I have a new and exclusive vintage ink launch, which is Heavenly Hydrangeas, which has a USB with it and stamps, which is beautiful. And I'm doing some really cool techniques with it today. So I'm super excited about that. And then the following weekend, I've got a 2 Red Robins die collection, which is lovely as well. It's got massive sunflowers on it. It's fabulous. And then towards the end of November, we're doing all the web exclusive dies. So when we launch a set of 2 Red Robins dies, we also launch some web exclusives. So we're taking the web exclusives and we're putting them on a USB, which is super cool. I'm going to let the cat out of the bag. And I have to go back on my word, because when we did Quirky Bird, I said we weren't going to do it as on an SVG USB. But we've had so many people asking for it for Scan and Cut. When we get to 6 collections, which will be February, we're going to put them on a USB. So that was decided over the weekend as well. So yeah, I was like, no, I don't want to do it. I want it to be different to Scan and Cut. And everyone's like, please, we need them on Scan and Cut. So I was like, okay then. So I've given in. Right, so this is the next bit, and this next bit is really important because we're going to make the frame that we made originally. So originally we had 178 by 165, and the frame that we made was 50 millimeters shorter and 50 millimeters narrower. So I now need to recreate that frame. So to do that, and this is really important, you can't align it this time because it will move the original rectangle. Therefore, it will move on the seam that we're going to cut it out of. So I'm going to show you a different way. So if I go back and edit, I can get rid of that now because I don't need it. I'm going to duplicate this. So I'm going to ask it to do 2. And the one that's selected, I'm going to resize, unlock the aspect ratio, make it 128 millimeters high by 115 wide. Now I can't align those because it will move them, the original one, and I don't want that to move. So the way that we do this is we press OK and OK again, and we go to our directional arrows. This is the same on a CM machine. When I click on that, it puts little cross hatches in the middle. So if I just zoom in on that for you and scroll down and zoom in again, roll down again, you will see that it's put 2 little cross hatches, a red one and a green one. The green one is in the bigger one and the red one's in the smaller one. So I'm now going to use my directional arrows to move this across. Now I would drag it on a CM machine because you have to come out to move it. So I would drag it on a CM so it looks right, and then zoom in, and then you'll see if you need to nudge it across. So we're going to do this, and we're going to make sure that those 2 little cross hatches line up perfectly. So the red one goes over the green and you can't see it anymore. So we just do that like that. So I now know that that is dead center, but the original rectangle is still in its place. So now when I press OK, I don't need to scan this in again because I know that it's going to be in the right position. And this is the frame that's going to go on the front. So you'll have the scene going all the way around the front, and then the picture will continue through the tunnel. So I'm now going to press OK again and keep going until I get to please select and cut and start, and off we go. And then this is going to go on the front. Now, we have also cut a frame earlier, if you remember, so I can use this to stabilise that, and then I can put the patterned one over the top. The easiest way to do it is to glue the pattern onto here and then glue the whole thing together. And that creates your tunnel card. And that's what I wanted to teach you in this class. I don't think I need to teach you where to position things because you're crafters and you're creative and we've seen your work and we know it's fabulous. So you can then decorate it with whichever of the reflections are on your USBs and whichever you prefer. But I just thought I wanted to teach you the mechanism, the way that it all built up, and especially this front frame, because otherwise that would have been really frustrating if you'd aligned it like you would have thought you would, and then you'd have moved it. So that was really important. Wendy's asked, when you cut the scene for the back, can you then, I don't understand. I'm not quite sure what that means. That's not making sense in my head. So the picture at the back is a complete one. And that the back piece is exactly the same as the front that we've made this frame for. I'm not quite sure what you mean, Wendy. My brain's not switched on today. Oh, okay, changed your mind. Okay, thanks, Wendy. I'll forget about it. But now look, so we've got this nice little piece in here, which is cool. And actually, if we did, we could cut this down if you wanted to and use this for that. Like that, or that's a nice one for a nice little gift card to go with the box. That's what I would do. Right, so let's glue these two together because they're exactly the same size, which is cool. And it's just to stabilise it a little bit. Now, at this point, you can decorate now if you prefer. What I did was put the frame on and then worked through the frame because I'm not putting acetate behind this. I'm leaving it open. And the reason I've left a good distance in between is so that I can work in front of the sections and on the back of them. So I can really create some depth and dimension. And I'll explain what I mean by that when I've glued this in place and show you the one that we've done. Because it was really cool because even though you've only got 3 tabs on either side, 3 levels, you can use the front and the back of each one, which is really cool. So you can add a Land Rover in the middle scene going over the hill, that kind of thing. And I really enjoyed building it up yesterday. And also resizing some of the pieces so you get that perspective. So the way that you resize on an SDX is you would resize on your print settings. So when we bring it up to print, it will be 100%. If you make it 50%, it will halve the size. And then all you need to do is use the percentage resize on the SDX and put that at 50% and it will fit perfectly. If you're working on a CM machine, all you need to do when you've made it smaller is measure the height of the rectangle and make the cutting file once you've grouped it so that the height of that is the height of the rectangle that you've measured, that your reflection is, and it fits perfectly. So you can make little teeny tiny ones to go in the background. So it's super cool. Right, so now all I want to do is put glue on here. Okay, so glue's going to go on here like that. I'm making sure I go right up to the edges because I don't want it to come undone because I'm going to be messing about with it for a while, decorating it. So we want to make sure that it's nice and secure. So what I do is do one side and then do the other side rather than fighting with 2 lots of glue, because then it ends up all over me and not all over the project. So I'm going to pop that on the front there. I'm looking forward to seeing all of these that you make. So if you would share them on the Highlight Crafts Facebook page, I would be delighted to see them, because, you know, it could be all sorts. You could do it with photographs. You could, you know, imagine wedding photographs like this. It would be lovely, wouldn't it? And something really different. And then I'm going to just put the glue on here now while the other side is drying, so I'm not fighting with it. Just take your time. Yesterday I came into work, and normally I'm working a bit manically because we've got loads on, and we've still got loads on. But I decided to tell my brain we were going to have a very calm day and everything was going to go perfectly. And I slowed down a bit, and it did. I was very happy. So now I'm going to pin this over here, push that back to there, and then this is going to give it that rigidity. Don't try and move it until it's completely dry. Don't stop messing with it. Go away and do all your reflections, do all your cutting. And by the time you come back, this will be absolutely solid, okay? I'm going to let that, I'm going to do as I say, let that dry now. And I'm going to go bring this one in here. So you can see now with a little bit of manipulation, it's not perfectly level, but it's not far off. And then, because it's still got that movement in it, you know, you can't fold it flat, unfortunately, to post it. So you'd have to make a box, but sometimes it's worth it. And then what I've done is started, and I've got, so if you look into here, you can see the Land Rover is going over the hill. So I can decorate behind here and behind here, and also in front, behind here and in front of here. So like I've got some sunflowers coming in here from the sides. It gives you more space to stick things to make it look fuller and make it look, give it that perspective of going into the distance. Public footpath is really nice. The sunflowers I've used, so the sunflowers, when I cut them out, I actually printed them on a 250 and that's, or 240. That's unusual for me, especially when I'm doing on the Scan and Cut, because I don't like that white edge. But I curved it, and the reason that I did 250 is because this isn't sticking onto anything. This is now freestanding. And then the decoupage layers, I then just printed on a 140. So I'm not getting that white edge around the pot that you're going to see. So that was really, really interesting. And then the rest I actually cut out of a mixture between anything that's going to be like these, that's going to be freestanding, use a heavier weight, and anything decoupage wise, or that's going to be stuck quite flat, use the lighter weight. So think about how you're using your cardstock. And then to just do this corner here is just a decoupage layer. So instead of cutting the sunflowers out and snipping it, just cut the decoupage layers, and you can build up and create a whole frame if that's what you wanted to do. So I hope you've enjoyed that. I thoroughly enjoyed designing it for you yesterday and teaching it today. I'm just going to go through the codes again with you. This isn't me pushing you to buy. It's just I want you to get the best value that you can when you've been on a class as a thank you. So prize, P-R-I-Z-E, all capitals, 50, 50, will give you 50% off the first prize USB. And then another one, which is super special, is Brother, all in capitals, so B-R-O-T-H-E-R. I do know you know how to spell brother, but my diction might not be very good, so I'm spelling it out for you. Please don't think I'm being patronising. 15, 15. So Brother 15 will give you 15% off all Brother, including the SDX, until Friday at midnight. So on the Highlight Crafts website, nothing to do with Create and Craft, this is Highlight Crafts website. Friday the 21st of October, I'll be in Peterborough working away. But yeah, so you'll get 15% off your mats, blades, all sorts of things. Okay, so anything Brother. Thank you so much, as ever, for joining me. I'm going to go back now and carry on my prep for all my shows that I've got next week, which is super exciting. Anybody coming to Peterborough, please come and say hello. I'm doing Scan and Cut on the stand, and Stephanie is painting on the stand, which is fantastic. And she's promised that anything she paints, she's going to give away. So come and see us. We've got fabulous make and takes, free make and takes. Amanda is doing a little trick or treat box with one of the most cutest little Halloween characters you've seen. It's a Boo, the little dog dressed up as a ghost. So it's not scary Halloween, it's beautiful. David is doing a little glass tea light holder with rice papers, which is lovely. So come along and join us if you can, and it's free for Create and Craft Club members. So if you haven't got your ticket, you can get one for free. And I will see you on the next class. Thank you so much. Lots of love. Take care, and I'll see you very soon.